Good morning, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's so incredible to be able to come up on the stage and in such amazing speakers prior to me. And I'm just really honored to get the opportunity to share my message today as well. I have a question for you all. How many of you have spent time with a student who was food insecure or homeless? Raise your hands. Take a look around. How many of you have a campus pantry or a program on campus addressing students? Okay. I want to share a quick story. The first time I met a student who was food insecure, I was actually volunteering at a campus food pantry at a time where people didn't raise their hands. It was my first day on the job, and this campus pantry was actually under my supervision, and I was there to learn from my students because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. It was at the end of the day when I went home that it had really sank into me that these students were hungry and that it was my job to help them. How many of you have had that realization? We don't talk about these issues. We don't talk about it a lot, although I will say that we have come a long way since then. When you find that you're presented with something that you've never come across before when you're working with students, what do you do? Anybody? Yeah, you Google it. That's exactly what I did. Thank you. I went to the library, I went online, I started looking for things so that I could learn, and I found exactly 2 studies. This is 2011. Those 2 studies were institutionally specific. They had incredibly small survey sizes, and one of them was actually published outside the United States. So it wasn't extremely helpful to me in trying to figure out what to do. We know a lot more now. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, a brand new study came out from the Wisconsin Hope Lab called Still Hungry and Homeless. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of the top line results. If you'd like to learn more, come join me later. 43,000 students were a part of the survey. They were at both 2- and 4-year institutions, both public and private institutions. And we asked them questions about food and housing insecurity and what it was like to be a student affording college today. We found that 36% of the students at universities were experiencing food insecurity. We found that 43% of the community college students were in the past 30 days. When we asked questions about the entire year, the number of community college students went up to 51%. So these are students that do not have the resources to adequately feed themselves, either nutritiously or at all. When we asked the students questions about their housing situation, we found that 9% of the students at universities and 12 at the community colleges were homeless. The first homeless student I met, his Pell refund check didn't come through. He actually was not able to put the deposit down on his apartment. He had been camping on national forest land for 3 weeks. And he was sitting across the desk from me about 3 weeks after I had started Googling and finding nothing. I didn't quite know what to do to help him, but his situation was really hard. And that's the thing. You can imagine that student situations would be extremely challenging, and the research backs that up. Basic needs insecurities impacts student academic success. It is a significant problem that we need to be thinking about. It's associated with lower grades. Students are more likely to have mental health issues. They're more likely to have physical health issues. And students that are experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness are less likely to persist and to complete. It's extremely important that we talk about this, and as I said, we're talking about it a lot more. I took it upon myself in 2011 to start talking about it and to try and get people's attention. I went to a 6,000-person conference. I had never spoken at a conference before in my life, and I offered a session looking at student poverty, hunger, homelessness, and food insecurity, and 4 people came. I was really excited for those 4 people, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think anyone was gonna come. So it's incredible that I'm now here speaking to all of you today. It's extremely exciting to me. What I'm trying to say is that it was really important for me to act. This is about innovation, this is about action, right? So it was mentioned that I co-founded the College and University Food Bank Alliance. As I was Googling, as I was looking for things, I came across another person who was doing the exact same thing as me, saying, why isn't anybody paying attention to this? Who can I learn from? And the two of us sat down and we started continuing to look. And our goal was actually just to bring people together to talk. And what we found was that the people we brought together weren't interested in talking, they were interested in learning. And so they became our audience. And we were only like a half a step ahead of them, but we stepped up. We had 15 member institutions. That was 2012. And today we have over 600. So people are paying attention, and they're doing something about it. Thank you. So I'm going to share with you a few quick things that I've learned in my experience in stepping up and trying to do something. The first is you need to know your students. This comes from the Lumina Foundation, the Beyond Financial Aid stuff. Have folks heard or seen that? You need to check it out, Beyond Financial Aid. You need to know your students. How many of you know how many students are hungry and homeless on your campus? Raise your hand. All right. So you've met students, you know they're there, but you don't know how many. We will be doing another survey this year. Please take part in the survey. We want you to know so that you can act based off of data. You need to identify your resources. Go out and map your resources. This is not a new issue. It's just something we're paying attention to now. There are resources on your campus. Bring them together. Bring them together underneath a single point of contact, an office or a person, and make it as obvious as possible and as easy as possible for students to access it. A lot of times people have these services and they do not advertise them because they're afraid the resources will run out. If the resources start running out, you have data now that students need it and you don't have enough resources. So advertise, because if you don't advertise, it doesn't exist. You have partners in your community that know how to do this work. Work with them. Nonprofits, governmental agencies, social workers. Talk to these people and have them work with you. Don't duplicate services. Track and evaluate. Know what works. Collect data. And if we can pull that data together, we can pull the student narrative together, and we can pull ourselves together, then we'll actually be able to advocate for change at the institutional, state, and federal levels. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I hope I can continue this conversation. We have the ability to give our students a brighter future, but we really have to step up to the plate. Thank you.